Have you ever noticed how a single envelope, one thin, harmless sheet of paper, can hold enough power to destroy everything a person believes about themselves? That's the question that hovers over this entire story, a question that hits like a cold slap the moment you picture a prince. Yes, a prince, alone in the dim hallway of his Montecito mansion, staring at an unmarked envelope he never asked for. An envelope he was never meant to see. An envelope stamped with a date that makes no sense, a signature that shouldn't exist, and results that, according to one shaken palace insider, should have been buried forever. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. And here's the part no one wants to admit. Even the most powerful families in the world have secrets. But what happens when those secrets leak? What happens when a truth, real or fabricated, arrives at the front door of a man already battling doubt, isolation, and a tension-filled marriage? What happens when one envelope pushes him past his breaking point? Tonight, we're opening that envelope. But not yet. Because to understand why its contents hit with such brutal force, you need context. You need the build-up. You need the storm that had already been building long before the courier slipped through the Montecito gates at 3:17 a.m. Let's start from that moment. 3:17 a.m., a time when the world outside is asleep, but inside that mansion, something is stirring. Something quiet. Something dangerous. The cameras caught it. Not the main cameras, but one of the side units. An old security feed no one had checked in months. A tall figure approaches the property line. Hooded, tense, never looking directly at any lens. No car, no headlights, nothing but footsteps crunching on gravel. He presses the intercom button once, not with impatience, but with certainty. As though he knows someone will answer. And guess what? Someone does. A sleepy security guard, half awake and annoyed, buzzes the gate open, thinking it's a delivery scheduled for the next morning. Harmless, boring, routine. But this delivery is none of those things. This delivery isn't even meant for the house. It's meant for him. When the guard later explains it, he says the man used a single line, a line that now sounds chilling. This belongs to the Duke. Not a package for the Duke. Not, please hand this to the Duke. Just, this belongs to the Duke. As though it is something the Duke once lost. Something someone has finally returned. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, what could be inside that is so significant, so explosive, that someone risked breaking protocol, criminal trespass, and possibly their career to deliver it? Why not mail it? Why not email it? Why appear in the dead of night? Face covered, mission clear. Because whoever delivered that envelope wanted no trail. No fingerprints. No digital proof. The envelope was meant to appear as mysteriously as the truth inside it. A truth Harry himself was not prepared for. But let me take you inside the house, because this is where the tension begins to rise. The envelope sits on the marble kitchen island, plain, silent, almost mocking. Harry enters the room without even noticing it. His mind is elsewhere, consumed with arguments from earlier, questions he hasn't answered, calls he hasn't returned. He's restless, tired, agitated. He grabs a glass. He fills it with water. He doesn't drink it. Then he sees it. If you've ever had a moment when your entire body freezes, when the world suddenly narrows to a single object, a single sentence, a single decision, that's what happens. Harry doesn't touch the envelope yet. He stares at it. The way you'd stare at a snake coiled in the corner, silent, but deadly. The handwriting on the front is sharp, almost familiar. The letters tilt slightly to the right, the way certain palace clerks used to write. The date is written in a format he hasn't used since childhood. It's almost as if whoever wrote this wanted him to know exactly where this came from. Or worse, who it came from. He calls out into the house. No answer. He calls again, louder. Still no answer. This part matters, because it sets the emotional temperature of the entire story. Harry is alone. Not physically. There are staff. There are family members. But emotionally, he is isolated. You can feel it in the air. You can feel it in the tension of his voice. You can feel it in the way his hands tremble slightly when he finally reaches for the envelope. But he doesn't open it. Not yet. Instead, he asks a question. Quiet, shaky, but real. Why now? And that question is everything. Because whatever is inside this envelope, someone held it. Someone kept it. Someone decided the exact moment to release it. That moment is now. But Harry hesitates. He walks across the room. He circles the island. He picks up the envelope. He sets it back down. He takes a deep breath, one that doesn't steady him at all. And then he hears footsteps. Slow, measured, intentional. The sound echoes down the hallway, a sharp contrast to the silence that filled the room moments earlier. He looks up. You can feel the tension thickening. You can sense the shift in energy, like a storm forming overhead. The doorway darkens. Someone steps in. It's her, Megan. Her expression is unreadable, calm, but charged. A look you give only when you already know what someone is holding, or when you're afraid to find out. And here's where the contradiction hits. She isn't shocked by the envelope. She isn't confused. If anything, she looks resigned, as though she knew this day would come. "Where did you get that?" she asks, voice low but steady. He tells her. She blinks. Not fast, not startled, just slowly. And that's when the audience begins questioning everything. Why isn't she surprised? Why does she seem prepared? Why does she take one step back instead of forward? Harry demands answers. His voice rises, stress dripping off every syllable. Megan tells him not to open it. She says the words sharply, urgently. Don't. Just don't. But Harry is done listening. Imagine a man already filled with doubts, pressure, unspoken conflicts. Imagine him holding a sealed envelope that could shatter or restore everything he believes. Imagine the weight of lineage, identity, heritage, duty, now twisted into something terrifying. He rips the top open. The paper slides out. He unfolds it. Halfway down the page, he freezes, completely still. His breath catches. His shoulders tense. His hands begin to shake. His eyes widen. Not with confusion, but with shock so severe it borders on physical pain. He whispers one line, just one. This can't be real. And just like that, the story accelerates. Because Megan steps forward now, not to comfort him, but to grab the paper from his hands. She scans it once. Her lips press into a thin line. Her heartbeat quickens. Her eyes move faster and faster across the page. Then, out of nowhere, she folds the paper sharply and slams it onto the counter. Her voice breaks. "We have to talk. Now." But before Harry can respond, before he can breathe, before he can react, someone knocks on the front door. A knock that is firm, authoritative, expectant. A knock that does not belong to a delivery man. A knock that changes everything. Because the person standing outside is the reason this envelope exists. And the reason the results, real or manipulated, have been sent at this exact moment. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Have you ever felt the weight of an object before you even touched it? Not physical weight, emotional weight. The weight of a secret. The weight of a threat. The weight of something that feels like it should never have been created. That's exactly what this envelope represents. And this chapter begins not with revelation, but with a disturbing question. How does an envelope like this even exist in the first place? Seriously, think about it. DNA data doesn't float around in the world like loose paper. It isn't something you misplace like a sock or forget like a password. It is protected, locked, buried in protocols and firewalls and vaults and restricted access systems designed to keep it hidden from precisely the kind of people who might weaponize it. So how did an unmarked envelope containing a document so sensitive, so incendiary, so dangerous, end up tossed casually onto a marble countertop in Montecito? That's where the Real story begins. Let's rewind. Not long. Only about 7 hours before the envelope arrived. The palace was unusually busy. Lights on in offices that normally stayed dark after 6 p.m. Whispering staff members lurking in doorways. A tension in the air you could feel even through the walls. It wasn't an ordinary night. Something had happened, or was about to happen. And somewhere, in the middle of all that tension, a file was being printed. Not scanned, not emailed, not uploaded. Printed. On paper. The old-fashioned way. If you've ever worked inside a system where everything is digitalized and tracked and password protected, then you know what that means. Printing something is suspicious. Intentional. It creates a physical object that can be stolen, copied, or destroyed, without leaving the digital fingerprints a hacker or investigator could trace. So when that printing job went through, someone in that building made a choice. A dangerous one. A deliberate one. A choice that meant This document must leave the system. But here's the part that makes your brain itch. The printer logs didn't register anything unusual. No user ID. No workstation. No print code. Nothing. Whoever did this bypassed the system entirely, something only staff at the very highest clearance levels could do. Which raises the question, who wants Harry to see this? And who wants to make sure no one else knows it was printed? Because to print a classified document without logging it is not just a breach, it's a declaration of war. Fast forward back to Montecito. Harry is sitting at the kitchen island. The envelope now open, but the contents still face down on the marble. He hasn't turned the page over yet, not fully. His thumb rests just at the corner. His breathing is shallow. There's a heaviness in his chest he can't swallow. He keeps glancing at Megan, who stands across from him, arms crossed tightly over her torso. She looks stiff, bracing, like she's expecting a punch she can't dodge. "What is this?" he asks her again. Megan shakes her head. "I told you, don't open it." That's not an answer. I don't have answers. That's when things shift. Because Harry isn't just confused now. He's suspicious. His eyes narrow. His voice sharpens. There's an edge you only hear from someone who feels the ground shifting under their feet. "You knew something like this was coming," he says quietly. She doesn't deny it. Not at first. Her silence hits harder than any confession could. Let's pause for a moment. Not to break the story, but to ask you directly. How would you react if someone you trusted seemed more afraid of what you might learn than you are? Would you assume they're protecting you? Or hiding something? Would you listen to their warnings? Or would their fear make you want the truth even more? That's exactly the conflict Harry feels now. And it's exactly what pushes him to flip the page over. But when he does, he freezes. Not just in shock. Not just in confusion. In absolute disbelief. Because the first line doesn't make sense. It reads, "Confidential report, restricted access, level Omega clearance." Now, if you followed stories about palace protocols, you know there are clearance levels. Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Sigma. These codes cover everything from basic correspondence to internal security matters. But Omega? There is no Omega. That's not a public code. That's not a known code. That's not anything used in any official system. Omega is off-book. Omega means secret. Omega means unauthorized. Omega means someone created a classification that exists solely to hide what's inside this report. Harry's stomach drops. He looks at Megan again. "Why is this labeled Omega?" he asks. Megan looks away. She presses her fingers to her temples. "I don't know," she whispers. But the thing is, she does know. He can tell. You can tell. So Harry turns the page. And that's when the second shock hits. The names. They aren't written the way palace documents normally list family members. They appear as raw data entries. Cold, clinical, scientific. Subject A. Subject B. Control sample. Comparative profile. And beneath that, relationships. Potential match. Exclusion indicator. Genetic variability assessment. Harry's hands start shaking again. "Why are there codes instead of names?" he demands. Another silence. A longer one. A heavier one. Megan finally leans forward, her voice barely above a breath. "Because this wasn't meant to be read by family, Harry. This was meant to be analyzed, not understood." But what does that even mean? Analyzed by who? For what purpose? And why wouldn't family be allowed to understand it? Before he can ask another question, the house suddenly shifts again. Not literally, but energetically. A pressure fills the room, like the atmosphere tightening around them. Someone is approaching. Harry can hear footsteps in the hallway. Not hurried, not hesitant, confident. These aren't the footsteps of a staff member, or a delivery person, or a curious bystander. These are the footsteps of someone who expects to be heard. Someone who expects to be obeyed. Someone who walked into the house with purpose. And here's the chilling part. Megan hears the footsteps too. And immediately straightens. Not in fear. In recognition. Harry's eyes flick toward her. "You know who that is," he says. This time, she nods. Once. Slowly. The footsteps stop just outside the kitchen. The silence is suffocating. Whoever is standing there doesn't enter immediately. They wait. Purposefully. As though giving Harry and Megan one last moment before the storm breaks open. Harry takes a breath. A deep one. A steadying one. He slides the document face down again and steps toward the doorway. The air feels electric. He reaches for the handle. He hesitates. And before he can turn the knob, a voice on the other side speaks. calm, measured, authoritative. "Harry, open the door." The voice he hasn't heard in months. The voice he never expected to hear in Montecito. The voice of someone who should not be here, at this hour, carrying what he is carrying. The voice says, "We need to talk. Now." Harry swallows. Because the person behind the door is the reason this envelope exists, and the reason it was delivered tonight. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What would you do if someone you weren't expecting, someone you haven't seen in months, maybe even years, appeared at your door in the dead of night? Not with a phone call, not with security clearance, not with protocol, but with urgency, with intention, with a tone that says, everything you think you know is about to fall apart. That is exactly where this chapter begins. Because the moment Harry hears the voice on the other side of the door, every muscle in his body tenses. It's not fear. Not exactly. It's recognition. It's the sudden collision of past and present, slamming into him with the force of a memory he'd buried but never truly escaped. He knows that voice. He grew up around that voice. He argued with that voice. He trusted that voice. He walked away from that voice. And now it's here, in Montecito, at 3:29 a.m. Harry doesn't open the door immediately. He steps back, heartbeat pounding so loud, he wonders if Megan can hear it across the room. She stands frozen at the kitchen counter, eyes locked on him, silently begging him not to make a move, yet knowing he will. "Harry," the voice repeats, firmer now, as if aware of the hesitation. "Open the door. We don't have time." No time for what? No time for explanations? No time for denial? No time for the truth that envelope has already begun to unravel? Harry inhales slowly. He places his hand on the doorknob. The cold metal bites against his palm, an appropriate metaphor, maybe, for what's coming. He opens the door, and in that instant, everything shifts. Standing on the doorstep, illuminated by porch lights and moonlight, is a man who should be thousands of miles away. A man whose presence here makes absolutely no sense. A man who has crossed oceans, broken tradition, and ignored every barrier to be here at this exact moment. His former private secretary, James Caldwell. Fictional. Powerful. The one insider who knew everything. The one who disappeared from the palace months earlier under mysterious circumstances. His eyes meet Harry's. "May I come in?" he asks. It sounds polite. It isn't. Harry nods slowly. Caldwell steps inside, and the first thing Harry notices is the briefcase. Black, heavy, locked, scuffed in places that suggest it's been handled roughly, maybe even chased, grabbed, or stolen back from someone. This is no casual visit. This is no midnight chat. This is an emergency. Caldwell walks straight to the kitchen without being invited, without waiting, without acknowledging Megan until he reaches the island and places the briefcase down with a quiet, deliberate thud. "Is that the original?" he asks, staring at the envelope like it's radioactive. Harry doesn't answer right away. "You tell me," he says, voice strained. Caldwell's jaw tightens. His eyes shift to Megan, not accusingly, but searchingly. "Did you open it?" Caldwell asks her. Megan shakes her head. "He did." Caldwell turns slowly back to Harry. "What exactly did you read?" Harry stiffens. "Enough." "And what did it say?" Harry hesitates. Too long. Too obviously. Caldwell knows. He knows Harry is holding back. He knows the truth in that envelope has shattered him. But the thing is, Caldwell isn't shocked. In fact, he looks like a man who expected this reaction. A man who has seen the document before. A man who came here because the moment Harry read it, the situation escalated beyond control. Harry finally answers. "It said things that shouldn't exist. That can't exist." "It said." Caldwell cuts him off with a raised hand. "Harry, listen to me carefully. Whatever you think the report says, whatever you believe it confirms or denies, this is bigger than you. Much bigger." Megan steps forward now, arms crossed defensively. "Are you saying it's fake?" she asks. Caldwell's eyes flick to her. "I'm saying," he replies slowly, "that this report was never meant for the public. It was never meant to be printed. It was never meant to exist outside a sealed database. And yet," he taps the envelope, "someone wanted it to land in your hands tonight. And you know who?" Harry asks sharply. Caldwell doesn't answer. Not immediately. Instead, he opens the briefcase. Inside are documents. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Some stamped. Some redacted. some clearly stolen or smuggled out of palace archives. A full-blown operation's worth of material, enough to expose not just a file, but an entire network. Harry stares in disbelief. "What is all of this?" he demands. Caldwell exhales slowly. "This," he says, "is everything I could save before they shut me out." Megan's voice tightens. "Before who shut you out?" Caldwell locks eyes with her. "Everyone," he says. "The entire Omega Group." Harry's stomach drops. There it is again. That word. That secret classification. Omega. "Tell me who they are," Harry demands. "Tell me what Omega means." But Caldwell shakes his head. "It's not a team," he says. "Not a department. Not a committee. Omega isn't a group of people. It's a protocol." "A protocol for what?" Megan asks. Caldwell closes the briefcase and looks at them both with an expression heavy with regret. "Erasing things that should never have happened," he says softly. That sentence hits like a blow. Erasing things? Like documents? Like test results? Like histories? Like identities? Harry steps forward. "You need to explain that," he says, voice cracking but determined. "I will," Caldwell replies. "But first you need to understand how your envelope ended up here." And so he explains. He explains the breach inside the palace network. Small, subtle, engineered by someone with access so deep no one questioned the anomalies. He explains the redirection of internal mail routing, the sudden spike in unlogged print jobs, and the suspicious deletion of backup copies. He explains that several files were targeted, not just this one: medical records, archival documents, lineage logs, internal memos, handwritten notes from decades ago. He explains that someone inside the palace wasn't just accessing sensitive files. They were collecting them, gathering them, preparing something. And when Caldwell discovered it, he confronted the wrong person. "Who?" Harry asks. "That doesn't matter yet," Caldwell responds quickly. "No," Harry snaps. "It matters to me." But Caldwell shakes his head again, more urgently this time. "Harry, saying their name out loud puts you in danger. Right now? Tonight." The room goes still. Even the air feels heavier. Megan exchanges a worried glance with Harry, and then Caldwell delivers the line that makes everything worse. "The person who leaked the report was close to you." Harry's blood runs cold. Close to him? Close how? Family? Friend? Staff? Confidant? He opens his mouth, but no words come. "You're lying," Megan says abruptly. Caldwell doesn't even blink. "I wish I were." Harry tries to swallow the fear rising in his throat. "You're telling me someone I know? Someone in our lives printed an unauthorized report and sent it to me in the middle of the night?" "Yes." "Why?" "That," Caldwell answers darkly, "is the question Omega was designed to prevent you from asking." Harry steps backward, gripping the counter to keep himself steady. His body is tense, but his mind is spiraling. Betrayal, manipulation, secrets. Every possibility hits him at once. Megan moves closer to him, but he doesn't reach back. He can't. The ground under him is shifting too fast. Caldwell watches them both with an expression of deep, pained urgency. "You need to know something else," he says. "The report you received isn't complete." Harry looks up sharply. "What?" "There are missing pages," Caldwell says. "Key sections. The truth doesn't fit on one sheet of paper." Megan's eyes widen. "Where are the rest?" Caldwell hesitates. "For now," he says quietly. "Hidden. Or destroyed. Or," Harry presses, "or waiting to be used against you." The room vibrates with silence. This isn't just a leak. This is leverage. Blackmail. Or a setup. Or a warning. "Let me guess," Megan says tightly. "You know who has them." Caldwell's voice drops to a whisper. "It's not a who," he says. "It's a group. And they're already in motion." Harry's heart pounds. "What do they want from me?" Caldwell stares him dead in the eyes. "They want you to break." The words land like a fist. Before Harry can respond, Caldwell picks up the briefcase again. "You have 10 hours, he says. "For what?" Harry demands. But Caldwell is already stepping toward the door. "To decide whether you run or fight." He pulls the door open. A cold wind sweeps into the kitchen, lifting the edges of the envelope on the counter. Caldwell looks back once. "Harry, whatever you do next, don't trust the person you think you should, because the person who betrayed you is closer than you realize." And then he's gone. The door slams shut. The silence swells. Harry stares at the envelope. Meghan stares at Harry, and the truth, as fragmented as it is, begins to take shape. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Betrayal never feels like a gunshot. It feels like a whisper, a hesitation, a tiny delay in someone's voice, a look you can't explain, a truth you thought was permanent, starting to melt. And that's exactly what Harry is feeling. He's standing in his own kitchen, staring at the closed door where James Caldwell just vanished into the California night. But it's not the midnight visit, the briefcase, or the missing pages that has Harry reeling. It's what Caldwell said as he left. Don't trust the person you think you should. Not be careful. Not watch your back. Not someone is lying. But this was surgical, personal, a direct hit. It wasn't just a warning. It was a riddle, a test, a setup for what was coming next. Because when betrayal shows up, it doesn't kick down the door. It waits. It watches. It blends in. And now Harry is left with one terrifying question. Who betrayed him? The silence inside the Montecito mansion is unbearable. Meghan doesn't speak. She hasn't moved from her place across the kitchen, but Harry can feel her watching him. Not in the way a wife watches a husband. This is different. Calculated. Guarded. He wants to ask her the question burning in his chest. Wants to scream it, actually. Was it you? But he doesn't. Because what if it is? And even more chilling, what if it isn't? What if asking the question plants a seed he can never unsee? What if voicing that doubt is the exact thing they want him to do? Caldwell said the person who betrayed him was close. But everyone around Harry is close. That's what makes betrayal so devastating. It has to come from the inside. So, who's on the inside? Let's map it out, piece by piece. First, staff. Not likely. His personal security team had already been reduced, thinned, filtered. After several leaks to tabloids months ago, he'd implemented tighter controls, hiring only vetted, non-UK-based professionals. His IT guy doesn't have the clearance. His chef doesn't even have a smartphone. His assistant? American. New. No ties to London. Second, friends. Fewer left. Since stepping away from royal duties, Harry has narrowed his inner circle to just 5 people. 5. 2 in Montecito, 1 in Toronto, 2 in Los Angeles. None with palace access. None who even like the palace. Third, family. Harry flinches even thinking it. Could it be William? Unlikely. The tension between them is real, but his brother wouldn't go behind his back in this way. At least, not without warning. Charles. His father operates on a level of control, yes, but Harry has never known him to be sneaky. Vindictive, perhaps. Dismissive. Cold. But this? Secret DNA reports, Omega protocols, midnight operatives? That's not his father's style. Then there's the wild card. Someone who's always played both sides. Someone who knows the family secrets better than anyone. Someone who disappeared from public view right when the Omega protocols were rumored to be initiated. Princess Anne. But no. She wouldn't betray Harry, would she? Harry's thoughts are racing now. Spinning. Collapsing into themselves. He slams his hand down on the counter, hard. The sound makes Meghan flinch. Are you okay? She asks softly. He doesn't answer. Not immediately. Instead, he looks at her. Really looks. And he sees it. Not fear. Not guilt. Not confusion. Distance. She's emotionally removed. Steeled. Watching him instead of reacting with him. And that's when the realization hits like a truck. She's already processed this. She's already accepted it. Not just the envelope. Not just the leak. The consequences. Meghan knew this was coming. Caldwell suspected it. Harry is now certain of it. So the question morphs. Not did Meghan do this? But how much does Meghan know that she hasn't told me? Harry doesn't accuse her. Not yet. That's not how this works. This isn't a courtroom. It's a marriage. A minefield of emotions, loyalties, and private wars. Instead, he goes upstairs. His office. His old laptop. Not the new one, the one the palace never knew about. The one that's never connected to the internet unless he toggles it manually. The one he used to write unsent letters. The one he stopped using after Archie was born. He boots it up. There's a file he remembers. A private folder, buried deep, password protected with a phrase no one could guess. The name of a pub he visited once with his mother. The exact date. Spelled backwards. He enters it. The folder opens. And inside are saved screenshots, old messages, flagged documents, half-written drafts. One of them is labeled, OT. Omega thread. Harry clicks, and what he sees almost makes him gasp. The messages start simple. A few months after Lilibet was born, he began receiving cryptic messages through a burner email tied to an encrypted account. The sender used the alias Shadow Barlow, a name Harry never traced. The first message said, "They tested her. You weren't supposed to know. Protect the files. Don't trust the protocol." At the time, he'd thought it was a prank, a joke, but the messages continued, each one layered with references only an insider would know, and approved the second sample. Bishop's date is critical. The lab in Madrid was shut down because of the print error. It was code, and back then, Harry had no idea what it meant. But now, with the envelope, with Caldwell's arrival, with the term Omega hanging in the air like a loaded gun, now it clicks. Someone had been warning him months ago, and he ignored it because he trusted the people around him, because he believed that being far from the palace meant being safe. He was wrong. Downstairs, Meghan is still silent. But now she's pacing. Not nervously, methodically. That's what unnerves Harry when he glances at the hallway camera feed. She's not waiting for answers. She's not frozen in fear. She's moving, plotting, preparing. For what? Harry shuts the laptop. He walks downstairs. And this time, he doesn't hide the suspicion in his voice. "Tell me something," he says. Meghan stops mid-stride. "Why didn't you want me to open that envelope?" She turns slowly. "Because I knew what it would do to you." He studies her face. "You didn't want me to read it, because you already had." She doesn't deny it. The silence confirms everything. When he asks, "A week ago," she says quietly. That's the blow. That's the betrayal. Not the lie itself. The timeline. The knowledge. The hiding. "You kept it from me. I was trying to protect you." "No," Harry snaps. "You were trying to control the outcome." Her face tightens. "Don't twist this. Then tell me everything," he demands. And that's when Meghan finally crumbles. Not dramatically, not with tears, but with quiet resignation. She walks to the kitchen drawer, opens it, removes another envelope. Identical, unopened. "Mine arrived first," she says. "But I didn't open it either. I knew what it was. I knew what it meant. I was waiting for the right moment." "There was no right moment," Harry growls. "There was never supposed to be any moment." Meghan fires back. "This wasn't supposed to reach us at all." Harry's chest heaves. His world, already crumbling, is now shaking under his feet. "And you didn't think I deserved to know?" he asks. Meghan's eyes fill, but not with tears. With fire. "I knew once it started, we couldn't stop it. I knew once you read that file. You'd never trust anyone again." She's not wrong. Because at this exact moment, Harry doesn't know who to trust. Not her. Not Caldwell. Not himself. And as he stares at the two envelopes, one already opened, one untouched, he realizes the most terrifying part isn't the contents. It's the fact that someone wanted him to have both. Two bombs. Two triggers. Two separate betrayals. One truth, split between two packets of lies. And whoever orchestrated it all is still watching. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What's more dangerous than a lie? A half-truth. Because a half-truth has just enough honesty to convince you, and just enough poison to destroy you. And that's exactly what Harry is about to learn. Because the moment Meghan places the second envelope on the counter, identical in shape, weight, and mystery, it's clear that this wasn't a one-time leak. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a random breach. It was a coordinated release. And the worst part? Meghan's been sitting on it for a week. Harry stares at the envelope like it's a loaded gun. He's already seen what the first one did to him. What could possibly be in this second one that she didn't want him to see? What truth is so dangerous it demanded silence? Or worse, complicity? "Why didn't you tell me?" he finally asks, voice low but tense, as if trying not to scream. Meghan doesn't look away. "Because I thought I could make it stop before it reached you." That sentence stings. "Make it stop," he echoes. "Like what? A rumor? A headline?" "No," she replies. "Like a detonation." And that's when Harry realizes she's not just been sitting on the truth, she's been running damage control behind his back. "How long have you known something like this was coming?" he demands. Meghan bites her lip. "Just for a second. But it's enough. Too long. Too measured." "Longer than I want to admit," she says. Flashback. 6 weeks ago. It's late. Meghan is alone in her home office. The kids are asleep. Harry is in LA on a solo trip, handling a nonprofit event. She's reading an encrypted message on her tablet. The email address is untraceable. The subject line, "They're moving the files." The body of the message is short. Omega no longer contained. Expect courier delivery. Protect what matters. That's it. No name. No sender. No timestamp. Just those 12 words. And somehow, she understands it immediately. She deletes the message, locks her tablet, turns out the light. But she doesn't sleep. Because that message was a code she hoped she'd never see again. Back in the present, Meghan finally tells Harry the truth. "You remember when I went to New York alone last year?" she begins. Harry nods slowly. "For the Freedom to Speak Summit." "What about it?" "I met someone. A woman. She used to work in private security. On the European circuit. She told me there were whispers inside the palace. Not just about us, about you. About Archie." Harry stiffens. "What kind of whispers?" Meghan hesitates. That someone was trying to verify paternity records that had already been sealed. Harry's heart skips a beat. "They were never unsealed," he says. "Those records were locked before we even left the UK." "That's what we thought," Meghan replies. But someone had found a backdoor. A way to run private confirmation tests without triggering alerts. Harry's voice lowers. "Without consent." She nods. "And you didn't tell me?" "I couldn't," she says. "At the time, it sounded too insane. Too conspiratorial. And if I told you, you'd go straight to the source. And that would have made things worse." Harry can't believe what he's hearing. "You knew someone was trying to test the children behind our backs, and you said nothing?" "I was protecting them," Meghan says. "No," he growls. "You were managing me." And there it is again, that feeling in his chest. The slow burn. The crumbling certainty. The nagging realization that this story was never about one document. It's about a long game. One he wasn't even told he was playing. "You've known for months," he whispers. "Not everything," she says. "Just enough to know we were being watched. Enough to know the walls were closing in." He doesn't say anything. Because deep down, he already knew. The strange phone calls. The untraceable emails. The people in Montecito suddenly acting colder, quieter. His own name popping up in dark web forums he'd never visited. All of it pointed to something bigger. And now Meghan is confirming it. They've been under surveillance for over a year. She takes a breath. Then she finally gives him the part she's been holding in for too long. "Harry," she says, "I requested a DNA test once." His head snaps up. "What?" She looks down. "Before we left the palace. Before Archie was born." His mouth goes dry. You what?" "I had it done in secret," she says. "Not because I doubted anything, but because I needed something concrete. Something they couldn't manipulate later. I knew how the palace operated. How they bury inconvenient truths and manufacture convenient ones." Harry's hands curl into fists. "You did that without telling me." "I did it to protect you," she says softly. "To protect all of us. I didn't want them to ever be able to twist the narrative." He's reeling. "Do you still have the results?" She nods. "Where?" "A safety deposit box in Geneva." "Geneva?" "I needed it somewhere the crown couldn't touch." The idea that Meghan has been hiding a secret test overseas, an entire offshore truth, makes Harry want to explode. But deep down, a part of him is stunned not at the secrecy, but at the foresight. She's not just been fighting the press. She's been fighting the system. Quietly. Constantly. Alone. But that raises another terrifying question. "If you already had real results," he asks slowly, "then what is this envelope?" "The one I got. The one you got. If those weren't real, why would someone send fakes?" Meghan exhales, shoulders sagging. "I think they're not entirely fake. I think they're doctored. Designed to raise just enough doubt to break us apart. To force you to question everything." He studies her face. "Break us apart?" She nods grimly. "If someone wanted to destabilize the royal line," she says, "what better way than to plant a story about Harry not being the father of his children?" Harry blinks. "The story hasn't even gone public yet," he says. Meghan looks away. There's that pause again. Too long. Too quiet. Harry's stomach twists. "It hasn't gone public yet," he repeats. "Right." She doesn't speak. Then she walks over to the counter, picks up the remote, turns on the TV, switches to the news. And there it is. Breaking banner. Across the bottom of the screen. Unconfirmed reports. DNA leak suggests royal paternity dispute developing. Harry's knees buckle. He grips the edge of the counter. His voice cracks. When did this start airing? Meghan swallows. 27 minutes ago. The leak is live. The story is out. And now it's war. Harry turns back to Meghan, fury and panic rising like wildfire. You should have told me. I was trying to buy us time, she fires back. Time for what? He roars. To prepare? To run? To hide? To fight, she yells. The house shakes with the energy of the argument. The kids, upstairs, are still asleep. But for how long? Every second this story spins out of control, their world gets smaller. The attacks get louder. The speculation gets darker. The headlines sharpen. And Harry knows it's only the beginning. But before he can collapse again, Meghan puts a hand on his shoulder. I didn't betray you, she says. Harry's eyes are glassy, furious, trembling. She leans closer. I knew this day would come. I just didn't know if we'd survive it together. He looks down at the second envelope still on the counter. The one Meghan never opened. The one that might match or contradict his. He reaches for it. Are you going to read it? She whispers. He hesitates. Then no. Why not? Because I already know what it's designed to do. And that's the moment things shift again. Harry's not spiraling anymore. He's calculating. Someone wants me broken, he says. But I'm not giving them the satisfaction. He grabs his phone. Who are you calling? Meghan asks. He looks her dead in the eye. The one person I swore I'd never speak to again. And before she can stop him, he hits dial. A ring. A second ring. Then a voice on the other end. Hello. Harry's voice is cold, steady, certain. We need to talk. I know who's behind this. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Some tests are designed to reveal. Others are designed to destroy. And then, there are the tests that were never supposed to happen at all. That's where this chapter begins. Not in a lab, not with science, not with logic, but with manipulation. With a system so tightly sealed in protocol and secrecy that even questioning it is viewed as treason. But someone questioned it. Someone bypassed the gatekeepers. Someone ran a test. Someone printed it. And someone leaked it. The only problem? That test wasn't authorized. It wasn't registered. And it wasn't on the books. In fact, according to Palace medical records, it never happened. Harry stands by the window, phone pressed to his ear, watching the Montecito hillside tremble in the wind. But the storm outside has nothing on the storm inside his head. He's just reconnected with someone he never thought he'd speak to again. A voice from the past. A dangerous one. Dr. Alice Vaughn. Not a family friend. Not an official palace physician. Something far more complicated. Years ago, before Archie was born, Dr. Vaughn had been stationed in a private royal medical wing, one of the quiet fixtures in the royal ecosystem. Not well known, not public-facing, but deeply embedded in the health and genetic documentation protocols that handled the crown's bloodlines. Then, she disappeared. No scandal, no retirement announcement. Just gone, transferred, silenced. Now, hearing her voice again sends a ripple of anxiety down Harry's spine. Alice, he says, I need you to tell me the truth. Did someone run a paternity test on me? There's a pause. A long one. Then a sigh. Harry, you're asking the wrong question. What do you mean? You shouldn't be asking if they ran a test, she says. You should be asking how many times. That line changes everything. Harry stumbles back, nearly dropping the phone. How many times? He echoes. At least 3 that I know of, Dr. Vaughn replies, her voice clipped with restrained frustration. 2 attempted pre-birth analyses. 1 postnatal sample. All outside normal clearance channels. All flagged as internal verification checks. All buried before results could be officially logged. Who authorized them? Another pause. And then silence. I can't say. Can't or won't. Harry growls. She finally replies, quietly. Both. And just like that, the truth becomes more horrifying than the lie. Because this wasn't a rogue test. It was a series of tests. Covert. Repeated. Systematic. They weren't looking for answers. They were looking for something specific. But what? And why? Dr. Vaughn continues. After the 3rd attempt, protocols were triggered. The Omega seal was applied. There it is again. Omega. Harry's blood runs cold. What exactly does that mean? She hesitates. It means, she finally says, the Crown deemed the information too dangerous to exist. Omega protocol erases all trace of origin. No digital record. No paper trail. No witness statements. You're telling me someone inside the Crown erased the test results? I'm telling you, she says, someone decided the results were too inconvenient. Harry's voice lowers. Inconvenient for who? You know who. Of course he does. Because when you're part of a 1,000-year institution built on bloodlines and succession, the only thing more sacred than ceremony is heritage. And if someone, anyone, can cast doubt on the parentage of the sixth in line to the throne, it doesn't just hurt reputations. It reshapes the royal map. Harry ends the call without saying goodbye. His hands are shaking. He walks back into the kitchen. Meghan is scrolling Twitter in silence, watching hashtags climb the ranks like wildfire. Hashtag #DNAgate. Hashtag royal lie. Hashtag not the father. Hashtag montecito meltdown. The entire world is now dissecting their family like a crime scene. He tells her what Dr. Vaughn said. Her expression doesn't change. Not at first. Then, very slowly, she nods. I knew they wouldn't stop, she whispers. Even after we left. Even after we cut ties. They don't just let you go, Harry. But this, he says, this was deliberate. Planned. Executed in secret. That wasn't science. They used the test as a weapon. Meghan looks up. Now do you believe me? She asks. He does. But belief isn't enough anymore. Now he wants answers. And there's only one way to get them. Later that night, Harry reaches out to a private genetics consultant in Zurich, someone Dr. Vaughn once trusted. A shadow expert. Off the books. The kind of man who works only through ciphers and middlemen. He sends a single line of encrypted text. Project Omega. Patient variant H7. Report override. Within minutes, a reply. Not over. Redacted. Still in play. Trace initiated. Then a second message. I've seen the report, and I know who tampered with it. Harry's heart nearly stops. Another message blips through. But first you need to know this. The test was never about you. What? He stares at the screen. Another message. They weren't testing your DNA. They were testing the origin of hers. His stomach drops. Hers? Does he mean Lilibet? Archie? Or Meghan? Before he can ask, another encrypted file begins downloading. It's massive, unlabeled, buried in 3 layers of compression. He opens the first folder. Inside is a file titled Subject B, Lineage Interference Flagged, Source Unknown. Harry's pulse spikes. The first page is a standard genetic profile. The second contains a diagram, a twisted tangle of markers, highlighted with bold red anomalies. He doesn't understand the science, but he understands the result. At the bottom, stamped in all caps. No verified match with royal lineage genetic baselines. Conclusion, foreign genetic introjection, timestamp irregularity. He can barely breathe. What does this even mean? Is it saying Lilibet doesn't match his DNA? Or someone else in the chain? He shows the page to Meghan. She's stone-faced, unmoving. Then, she says a sentence that stops his heart. I think they're trying to imply I lied. Harry stares at her. You didn't. I know that, she says. But they don't care. They don't need proof. They just need doubt. And that's the moment Harry sees the bigger picture. This isn't about who fathered who. It's about credibility, power, succession. The Crown knows it can't legally erase Harry from the line of succession. But it doesn't have to. All it needs to do is convince the world he doesn't belong there. Harry begins pacing. They've weaponized our children, he mutters. They've turned DNA into propaganda. He looks at Meghan. They ran a test that was never supposed to exist, then erased the results, then created new ones that cast doubt. And now, they've leaked a version designed to trigger the media, to make me look like I've been living a lie. And to make me look like a liar, Meghan adds. He stops pacing, stares at her. This is the play, he says. Smear the mother, undermine the father, and destroy the heirs. Meghan walks over to him. There's a fierceness in her eyes now. No, not destroy them, she says. Replace them. Harry's mouth falls open. What? She repeats. They're not just trying to break us. They're making space for someone else. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. It starts with a scream. Not from outside, not from the media, not even from Meghan. It comes from Harry. A raw, guttural, unfiltered roar that echoes through the walls of their Montecito mansion. Echoes through the marble floors, the vaulted ceilings, the carefully curated calm of the Sussex estate. The kind of scream that only erupts when every illusion of safety has been shattered. And make no mistake, that's exactly what just happened. Because now Harry knows the truth. The Omega Protocol wasn't just about hiding data. It was about erasing legacy. And now, the question racing through his mind faster than he can contain it is simple, savage, and world-ending. If they've erased his children, what else have they rewritten? The meltdown begins with movement. Harry kicks the dining chair out of his way, the wooden legs screeching against polished stone. He sweeps the stack of media reports, envelopes, and notes from the kitchen island in one violent gesture. Pages scatter. Glasses shatter. The chaos is no longer external. It's physical. It's in the room. It's in his blood. Megan rushes toward him. Not to stop him. Not to calm him. Just to anchor him. Harry, she says, her voice tight but controlled. We need to think. We don't have the luxury of falling apart. I am not falling apart, he bellows, his voice cracking as he spins toward her. I am watching my family, my children, be erased from history. That's not falling apart, Megan. That's warfare. And there it is. Warfare. Because this isn't just scandal. This isn't just tabloid fodder. This is a structured, timed, targeted attack designed to collapse the entire Sussex reality. Not in one headline. Not in one blow. But in slow-motion humiliation. Doubt. Confusion. Divide and conquer. And Harry can see it now. They're halfway there. Elsewhere in the house, the kids remain asleep. For now. But the digital world is wide awake. Hashtags are exploding. Conspiracy threads are evolving in real time. Someone claims to have the original lab audio. Another insists Harry's children were genetically edited surrogates. There are whispers of IVF, of switch samples, of fertility clinics with royal ties. The worst part? Every minute Meghan and Harry don't speak, the narrative hardens without them. Their silence becomes guilt. Their privacy becomes evidence. Their hesitance becomes a verdict. And Harry, once the fiery spare, the rogue prince, the rebel with a cause, is now being cast as the dupe, the victim, or worse, the fraud. I need to go outside, he mutters suddenly. Meghan steps in front of the door. Harry, don't. The press. I don't care. He throws open the glass doors and storms into the backyard, the dry California wind slapping his face like a wake-up call. But it doesn't help. Because as he stares at the rows of camera flashes exploding beyond the hedges, one realization rips through him like glass. They were never safe. Not here. Not anywhere. Their American escape was an illusion. A pause button. A holding pattern. A honeymoon before the second wave. And now that wave is here. Bigger. Colder. Sharper. Designed to sink the Sussex ship. Back inside, Meghan's phone buzzes. Unknown caller. She hesitates, then answers. The voice on the other end is British, clipped, and almost robotic. Code frame breach has expanded. AI image leaks are next. Prepare for surgical disinformation. Repeat, surgical disinformation. You are being mirrored. Click. That's all. No name. No follow-up. No repeat call. But the message is clear. They're about to release fakes. And not just documents. Images. Footage. Deep fakes. Mirrored, the voice said. Which means someone is preparing to manufacture Meghan and Harry's own faces saying things they never said, admitting to things they never did, denying things they never knew. It's not character assassination anymore. It's identity theft. On a royal scale. Meghan runs outside. Harry, we have to shut down everything. He doesn't turn around. They're going to flood the networks with AI footage. Deep fakes. We need to pull the plug on every platform we have before it spreads. Still, he says nothing. Meghan touches his arm. They're going to use our faces, Harry. That finally makes him look at her. What do we do, he asks. Go public? Deny everything? Demand tests? Call out the palace? Meghan's eyes narrow. We do nothing. Harry blinks. What? If we react, we confirm this is about us, she says. If we deny it, we validate the existence of the test. If we ask for clarity, we prove we don't have control. Then what? He shouts. We play the only card we have left, she says. And what's that? She leans in close. The truth they're most afraid of. That night, the house transforms into a bunker. The blinds are drawn. Wi-Fi signals are jammed. All smart devices are unplugged. A communications expert arrives from Los Angeles, under an alias. She locks down every channel. No social media, no private emails, no text replies. She instructs. From this moment on, you're ghosts. Meghan nods. Harry winces. But we need to leak one thing, Meghan says. The expert raises an eyebrow. What? Something small, Meghan explains. Something only the palace would recognize. Harry catches on. A trigger. The expert smiles faintly. I can do that. She opens a secure laptop, drafts a digital breadcrumb, a line of code, a phrase embedded in metadata, one that looks meaningless to the public but rings like a fire alarm in Buckingham corridors. Project N2, Subject B is not alone. The file is uploaded. The timer is set. In 19 hours, the war will escalate again. But now, the Sussexes are in control. For now. But just as things begin to feel even slightly anchored, the power goes out. Every light in the house cuts. Every screen goes black. Every security monitor goes fuzzy. Harry races to the control panel. Backup systems aren't responding. Meghan grabs a flashlight. The kids begin to stir upstairs. Then the front gate creaks. A shadow figure appears on the outer camera. Just for a split second, before the feed cuts completely, Harry yells for the emergency lock system. It doesn't engage. Meghan pulls the kids from their beds. Go to the panic room, now. But before they can make it down the hall, a knock. At the door. 3 taps. Then silence. Then a 4th. Harry steps toward it. Meghan grabs his arm. Wait. What if it's them? He stares at the door. Then the knock comes again. Faster this time. Urgent. He opens it. And standing in the doorway, soaked, shivering, and out of breath, is someone he hasn't seen in nearly a decade. Lady Margaret Ashcroft. His mother's closest confidant. A royal historian. A ghost from the old world. She looks at him with terror in her eyes. I know what they erased, she whispers. They erased it from her too. Harry's voice is a whisper. From who? Lady Margaret trembles. From your daughter. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. There are places in the world that don't appear on maps. Labs with no signage. Doors that require no key, only a name. Rooms where silence isn't just protocol, it's law. You don't stumble across these places. You don't Google them. You're invited, or you're erased. And one of those places just got reactivated. Because Lady Margaret Ashcroft didn't come to Montecito in the middle of the night just to warn Harry and Meghan. She came to bring them somewhere. Somewhere the crown believed no one would ever return to. A place buried beneath rock, registry, and time. A place once known only by a code name. The Nest. Are you insane? Meghan hisses as Harry throws a duffel bag into the back of the SUV. Probably, he mutters. But what other option do we have? Leaving in the middle of the night. No guards, no press team, no legal shield? That's not strategy, Harry. That's suicide. Harry doesn't stop packing. Margaret waits by the back gate, cloak soaked through with rain, one hand clutched around a manila folder bound with twine. She hasn't explained everything yet, but what she has said is enough to send Harry spiraling. Because when someone who served the late Princess Diana whispers, they've altered the digital memory of your daughter, you don't ignore it. You investigate it, even if it means going back to the source. Even if the source is the lab that ran the first unregistered paternity test. 3 hours later, they're crossing into New Mexico under a moonless sky. No GPS, no phones, just an old, creased road atlas and Margaret's fading memory. Who runs this lab now? Meghan asks from the back seat, whispering so the kids, sedated and asleep under a doctor's recommendation, won't hear. No one, Margaret says. Officially, it was decommissioned after the Omega Directive was implemented. But trust me, these places don't close. They just go darker. Harry grips the wheel tighter. Why was it built in the first place? To answer royal questions the public isn't allowed to ask. And what kind of questions are those? Margaret looks him dead in the eye through the rearview mirror. The kind that question blood and truth. They arrive at dawn. From the outside, it looks like nothing. An abandoned ranger station surrounded by desert scrub, boarded windows, sagging roof, a rusted no trespassing sign swinging lazily in the wind. But Harry knows better. Margaret steps forward and runs her hand along the brick wall. Finds a notch. Twists. Pulls. A panel slides open. A keyhole. But not for a key, for a fingerprint. She presses her thumb into the reader. The door hisses. Unlocks. Opens. And behind it, metal stairs, leading down, deep down, into silence, into truth. Inside the nest, the air is sterile and heavy with old secrets. Flickering lights blink on overhead in segments, illuminating a tunnel of chrome and concrete. Walls lined with dormant machines. A control panel with dials and biometric sensors. Doors labeled in coded colors: red room, white bay, blue vault. This is where it happened? Harry asks. Margaret nods. 10 years ago, this is where the Crown's secret genetic files were migrated. Everything from Queen Victoria's mitochondrial traces to Henry VIII's phage anomalies. This place held the complete biological history of the monarchy. Meghan frowns. So why would Lilibet be in that database? She wasn't even born when it was active. That's exactly the problem, Margaret whispers. She moves toward a terminal, flicks a switch. Screens hum. A login prompt appears. But there's no keyboard. Only a retinal scanner. Harry steps forward. Let me try. Margaret hesitates. If they flagged you as compromised, it could trigger a wipe. I don't care. He leans in. The scanner activates. A red light dances across his eyes. The screen freezes. Then flashes. Access granted. Meghan exhales. Margaret gasps. The terminal loads. One file. One folder. One name. Lilibet D. Mountbatten Windsor. Status: classified. Security flag: Omega override active. Visual access: restricted. Voice confirmation required. Harry doesn't wait. He says her name. Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor. The screen unlocks. And what they see is a horror show. Lilibet's genetic profile is there, but it's fragmented. Missing markers. Gaps in lineage. Indicators of data tampering. Entire swaths of her DNA chain redacted, with labels like inconclusive, manipulated, and synthetic insert. What the hell does that mean? Meghan whispers. Harry doesn't speak. The worst part is the tag at the bottom. Do not match to primary subject. Rerouted through non-biological control group. Margaret is visibly shaking. This is why I came, she says. I saw this 2 weeks ago. The file was accidentally copied to an external drive during a Palace Systems audit. I thought it was fake, until I recognized the hash signature. Whose control group? Harry asks. Project N2, Margaret says. The one no one talks about. The one they use when a bloodline needs adjusting.